The rain fell like tears from an angry sky, flooding the night market where Lena stood alone. Her thin body shook with cold as she held an umbrella over her small food cart. The soup in her only bowl was growing cold. Her stomach screamed with hunger, but she could not eat what she needed to sell. Through the storm, a young man stumbled forward. His name was Eli, though Lena did not know this yet. His clothes hung wet and torn on his body. He shivered like a leaf in the wind. People walked past him quickly, pulling their children away as if poverty was a sickness they could catch. Lena watched him with a heavy heart. She knew that desperate look in his eyes. She had worn it herself many times before. "Please," Eli whispered, his voice barely louder than the rain. "Just something warm. Anything." Lena looked down at her last bowl of soup. It was all she had. If she gave it away, she would go home empty-handed. Her mother was sick at home. They needed every coin, but her hands moved before her mind could stop them. She handed him the bowl. Eli's cold fingers wrapped around the warm bowl. His eyes filled with tears that mixed with the rain on his face. He drank the soup quickly, like a man dying of thirst drinks water. "No one has been this kind to me in years," he whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. Lena smiled sadly. "We are all one bad day away from needing help," she said softly. Before Eli could respond, bright headlights cut through the darkness. A black car, expensive and shining even in the rain, rolled slowly past the market. Its windows were dark as midnight. Someone inside was watching, waiting. Eli's face went pale with fear. He shoved the empty bowl back into Lena's hands and disappeared into the shadows like a ghost. Lena stood alone in the rain, staring at the black car as it drove away. Her heart pounded with questions. Who was that young man? Why did he run? And who was looking for him in the darkness? She did not know that this one act of kindness would change her life forever. She did not know the storm had only just begun. Morning came with cruel voices. Lena arrived at the market to find her boss, Mr. Rafi, and her co-worker Mara talking near the fruit stalls. When they saw her, their whispers turned to mocking laughter. "Look who finally shows up," Mara said, her voice dripping with meanness. "Our charity queen who feeds every dirty beggar in the city." Mr. Rafi shook his head in disgust. "That homeless man you fed last night probably stole from other vendors. You are too soft, Lena. Too soft and too foolish." Lena's cheeks burned with shame, but she said nothing. What could she say? They would only laugh harder at her. As she arranged oranges with shaking hands, footsteps approached from behind. She turned to find Eli standing there. He no longer looked wet and desperate. His clothes were still worn, but his eyes were clear and determined. "Let me help you sell fruit," he said quietly. "Please, I owe you for your kindness." "You owe me nothing," Lena replied, confused. "Then let me stay because I want to," Eli said firmly. Before Lena could answer, a television in a nearby electronics shop flickered to life. A news headline flashed across the screen. "Billionaire heir missing for 1 year. Family offers reward." "My name is Eli," the young man said as he helped Lena stack mangoes in neat rows. His hands moved with surprising skill, careful and precise, as if he had done important work before. Mara watched them from across the market. Her eyes were narrow with suspicion. She whispered to another vendor, and soon curious looks followed Eli everywhere he moved. Lena noticed none of this. For the first time in many months, her work felt lighter. Eli worked hard without complaining, even when the sun beat down on them like fire. He spoke little, but when he did, his words made her think. "Dreams belong to those who have lost everything," he said suddenly, staring at the orange sky as the sun began to set. Lena looked at him strangely. "That is such a sad thing to say." Eli smiled, but it was a smile full of old pain. "Perhaps, but it is true." As evening shadows grew long, a crowd gathered around old Aunt Nuru, the market storyteller. Her voice, ancient and wise, carried across the stalls like music. Tonight, she told a tale called "The Prince Who Hid Among the Poor." "Once upon a time," Aunt Nuru began, her eyes moving across the crowd but stopping on Eli, "there lived a prince who grew tired of golden chains. He took off his crown and walked among the poor, wearing rags to test the hearts of men. The crowd leaned in closer, hungry for her words. Aunt Nuru continued, her voice rising and falling like ocean waves. The prince discovered something important. Those who judge gold only by its shine are blind to true treasure. And those who judge people by their dirty clothes are fools who will choke on their own jealousy. Eli's face went pale as death. His hands closed into tight fists. The story felt too close to his own life. Too knowing. How could this old woman see through him? Aunt Nuru's eyes locked onto his. For one long moment, the busy market fell silent in Eli's mind. Then she smiled, a smile full of secrets, and looked away. That night, Eli sat alone in the small room he rented above a tailor's shop. In his hands was an expensive leather notebook filled with sketches of buildings and business plans. Written inside were quotes about trust and starting over. The next morning, Lena arrived to find her wooden lantern smashed on the ground. Someone had kicked it during the night. Without light, she could not work after sunset, and evening sales brought her most money. She sat on her wooden stool, fighting tears that wanted to fall. Everything felt too heavy. Her mother needed expensive medicine. Rent was due soon. And now this broken lantern. I can fix it. Eli's voice came from behind her. Before she could say no, he gathered the broken pieces. His hands moved with unexpected confidence and skill. He bent wire, fitted wood, and replaced the broken glass with steady fingers. In less than an hour, the lantern glowed brighter than it had before. Lena stared at the repaired lantern in wonder. How did you learn to fix things so well? Eli looked away quickly. I used to fix things in another life. The warm glow from the lantern made Lena smile for the first time in weeks. It was a small thing, this repaired light, but it felt like hope living again. Eli watched her smile, and something changed in his face. He looked at her as if she was the only piece he had known in years. Neither of them saw Mara watching from the shadows, her eyes sharp and calculating. Mara's sharp eyes followed Eli everywhere now. Something about him did not match his poor man's clothes. The way he spoke was too educated. The way he moved was too confident. And yesterday, she had seen something that proved her suspicions right. While Eli was helping Lena, he had pulled out a strange card to pay for lantern supplies at the hardware store. It was not an ordinary card. The metal was black and heavy, with symbols Mara recognized from magazines that rich people read. That card belonged to people who owned companies and buildings, not to homeless men selling fruit. That evening, Mara crept to Eli's small room above the tailor's shop. The old door was easy to push open. Inside, she found exactly what she was looking for. A business card lay hidden inside a book. The name was printed in elegant gold letters. Elijah Thorne, Thorne Industries. Mara's hands shook with excitement. So the beggar is really a prince, she whispered to herself, a wicked smile spreading across her face. And foolish Lena has no idea what treasure works beside her. This secret was power, and Mara knew exactly how to use it. The next day, Mara approached Lena with a voice as sweet as honey. Lena, my dear friend, she said with false kindness, I have wonderful news. There is a charity gala next week for struggling business people. You should bring Eli. It could help his dreams come true. Lena's tired face lit up with hope. Really? You think they would help someone like him? Of course, Mara lied smoothly. Everyone deserves a chance to rise above their circumstances. Bring him. I will arrange everything. That evening, Lena told Eli about the invitation with excitement in her voice. She did not see the flash of fear cross his face before he hid it behind a gentle smile. If you think it will help, he said quietly, though his heart pounded with worry. Lena borrowed a simple dress from a kind neighbor. It was old but clean, and wearing it made her feel almost beautiful. Eli wore the only decent clothes he owned, still humble but neat and presentable. What neither of them knew was that Mara had already made a phone call. An anonymous message had been sent to every newspaper in the city. Street vendor brings beggar to Billionaire gala tonight. Come see the scandal. The gala hall blazed with lights bright enough to hurt the eyes. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls made of diamonds. Rich men in expensive suits and elegant women in silk dresses glided across marble floors. The air smelled of costly perfume and power. Lena felt small and wrong in this place. She held Eli's arm tightly, trying not to fall in her borrowed shoes. Eli's face was pale, his jaw tight with tension. He knew something terrible was about to happen. Too many eyes were turning toward them. Too many whispers followed their steps. Then the cameras appeared like attacking insects. Reporters swarmed around them, their camera flashes blinding. Sharp questions came from every direction. Is it true you've been hiding your real identity? Mr. Thorne, why are you dressed like a homeless man? Miss, did you know who he really was all along? The crowd stepped back, and Lena saw giant television screens on the walls. Her own shocked face stared back at her from news headline. Street vendor brings beggar to elite gala, but he is Elijah Thorne, missing billionaire heir. Lena's world spun in circles. She turned to Eli, her face twisted with confusion and hurt. Elijah Thorne, she whispered. You are a billionaire? Eli's face looked like it was breaking into pieces. He stared at Lena with such deep pain in his eyes that she almost reached out to comfort him. But the cameras kept flashing like lightning. The crowd kept laughing, and shame burned through her body like fire. You lied to me, Lena whispered, her voice cracking with hurt. Lena, please, let me explain. Eli reached for her hand, but she pulled away as if his touch burned her skin. The crowd laughed even louder. Someone shouted. The gold digger finally caught her rich prize. Another voice yelled mockingly. She knew exactly who he was all along. Eli's reaching hands dropped to his sides. He looked around at the mocking faces, at the cameras capturing his deepest humiliation, and something inside him shattered like glass. Without another word, he turned and ran. He pushed through the laughing crowd, through the glass doors, and disappeared into the night. Lena stood frozen, her heart breaking in ways she did not understand. In the reflection of a crystal wine glass nearby, she saw Mara. Her co-worker stood at the edge of the crowd, smiling like a snake that had just swallowed its prey. Their eyes met for one brief second, and Lena knew Mara had destroyed them both on purpose. The next morning, the market turned against Lena like a pack of wild dogs. Vendors who once smiled at her now spat at her feet as she walked past. Children who used to wave at her now ran away, their mothers pulling them close and whispering warnings about her. She was using him for his money all along, one woman said with disgust. I always knew she was greedy beneath that kind face, another woman added. Poor people like us should know our place, a man said, shaking his head. She tried to climb too high and dragged shame down on all of us. Mr. Rafi fired her without hesitation or mercy. You brought disgrace to this market. I cannot keep you here anymore. Lena stumbled home with tears blurring her vision. When she opened the door, she found her mother collapsed on the floor. The old woman's face was pale as death, her breathing shallow and weak. The shame and stress had made her sickness much worse. Mother, Lena cried, holding her mother's head gently. Please do not leave me. Please stay. As night fell, Lena sat beside her mother's hospital bed. She had spent her last coins on medicine. She had lost everything now. Her job, her dignity, and worst of all, Eli's trust. 3 days later, a soft knock came at Lena's door. She opened it to find Aunt Nuru standing there, her ancient eyes full of knowing sadness. In her weathered hands, she held Eli's leather notebook. He left this at my stall before he disappeared, Aunt Nuru said softly. He told me if anything happened to him, I should give it to the one person who showed him true kindness. Lena's hand shook as she took the notebook. I do not want it, she whispered. He lied to me about who he was. Aunt Nuru's eyes grew sharp and wise. Did he lie? Or did the cruel world force him to wear masks before he could learn who was real and who was false? The old woman left without another word, leaving Lena alone with the notebook and her broken heart. For many hours, Lena could not bring herself to open it. But as midnight came and her mother slept restlessly nearby, curiosity and heartbreak won the battle. She opened the leather cover with trembling fingers. Inside were pages and pages of letters. Letters written to his dead mother. Each one began the same heartbreaking way. Mother, forgive me for what I have done. I had to leave everything behind. One letter read in Eli's careful handwriting. I had to know if anyone could see me as a person without seeing my money first. I had to test if kindness still existed in this world, or if everything Father warned me about was true, that everyone has a price, everyone lies, everyone wants something from me. Lena's heart squeezed with pain. She turned the pages faster, hungry and afraid of what she would find next. Another letter said, I met a woman in the rain today, Mother. She gave me her last bowl of soup. She had nothing at all, yet she gave everything. You told me to search for people like her. You said that gold tested by poverty shines brighter than gold worn by pride. I think I found her, Mother. I think I finally found the answer to your lesson. Tears fell onto the pages, making the ink blur and run. Lena read on through her blurred vision, her heart breaking more with each word. The final entry was dated the day before the terrible gala. If you are reading this, then you are the one I trusted with my broken heart. You are the answer I searched for in the darkness. Forgive me for not telling you the whole truth. I was afraid of losing the only real thing I had found. But with you, for the first time in my life, I felt truly seen. Morning came with a different kind of storm. Black expensive cars lined the market street like soldiers in formation. Men in perfect suits walked through the stalls, carrying clipboards and measuring tools. At the center of everything stood Eli, completely transformed. He wore a suit tailored to fit him perfectly, like armor made of silk. His hair was cut and styled to perfection. His face was cleanly shaved, showing sharp, handsome features that made him look like a young king. Tall bodyguards surrounded him like a wall of muscle and silent threat. Lena hid behind a fruit cart, watching from the shadows. Her heart hammered in her chest like a trapped bird. Eli was buying the entire market. Every stall, every space, every worn wooden board. He announced big plans to rebuild everything into something modern and profitable for everyone. The vendors who had gossiped cruelly about Lena just days ago now cheered and clapped loudly, their greed drowning out any shame they should have felt. Eli walked through the celebrating crowd, his face cold and distant as stone. His eyes swept over the market, past the fruit stands, past the flower vendors, until they landed exactly on Lena's hiding spot. For one single heartbeat, their eyes met. Lena's breath caught in her throat, but Eli's expression remained empty and cold. He looked right through her as if she did not exist. Then he turned and walked away without a single word. Within days, Mara appeared at Eli's side like a shadow attached to sunlight. She wore expensive new clothes now, elegant and carefully chosen. Her hair was professionally styled, her makeup applied perfectly. She looked like someone who belonged in his wealthy world. Mr. Thorne, she said with sweetness dripping from every word, I am so grateful for this opportunity to work with you and help the less fortunate, just as you do. Eli nodded without really looking at her. His mind was trapped somewhere else, lost in memories of rain and warm soup and a smile that had made him feel human for the first time. Mara leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. I must warn you about someone, sir. That woman, Lena. She has been spreading terrible lies about you all over the market. She told everyone she tricked you on purpose, that she knew who you were from the beginning and planned to trap you for your money. Eli's jaw tightened like stone. Lena said these things? I heard her myself with my own ears. Mara lied smoothly, her face a perfect mask of false concern. Many vendors confirmed it to me. She is bitter and angry that you discovered her evil scheme before she could succeed. Something precious died in Eli's eyes. The small thread of hope he had been carrying snapped in half. Thank you for telling me the truth, he said coldly. Days crawled by like wounded animals. Lena's mother grew sicker with each passing hour. The medicine was very expensive, and without her job, Lena had no money at all. She sold everything she owned, her mother's old jewelry, her own few clothes, even her only pair of good shoes. But it was never enough to pay for what her mother needed. One morning, the hospital nurse pulled Lena aside with a strange expression on her face. Someone paid all of your mother's medical bills, she said quietly. Everything. The medicine, the hospital room, all the treatments. It was done anonymously, but the payment came from a company called Thorn Industries. Lena's knees went weak beneath her. She grabbed the wall to keep from falling. Eli, she whispered to herself. Even after everything, even believing she had betrayed and used him, he still cared enough to save her mother's life. She wept right there in the hospital hallway, her whole body shaking with grief and gratitude and crushing guilt all mixed together. But Eli never came to visit. He stayed far away, nursing his broken trust alone in his enormous mansion, believing lies about the only person who had ever truly seen him. Meanwhile, Mara's lies grew bolder and more dangerous. But she had made one critical mistake. While creating a fake video to spread more lies about Lena, she had accidentally left her digital signature embedded deep in the file. Aunt Nuru was no fool. She had lived too many. She watched Mara closely with wise, patient eyes. And when the young woman grew careless with confidence, the old storyteller struck like lightning. She found a discarded computer drive that Mara had thrown away, believing no one would ever find it. But Aunt Nuru had young friends in the market, people who understood technology and could trace digital signatures and recover deleted files from broken devices. Within a few days, she had her proof. The video showing Lena mocking Eli was completely fake, carefully edited to twist innocent words into cruel ones. And there, buried in the computer code like a signature on a confession, was Mara's name and identification. Aunt Nuru called an emergency meeting of all the market vendors. She stood in the center of the market square, her voice ringing with authority that commanded respect. I have something important to show all of you. Something that proves we have been sheltering a poisonous snake among us. The crowd gathered quickly, curious and restless. Even Eli's security guards took notice and made phone calls. Soon, Eli himself stood at the edge of the crowd, his face hidden behind dark sunglasses, listening to every word. Aunt Nuru played the videos for everyone to see. First, the real footage showing Lena's actual words. I only hope he finds peace wherever he goes. I hope he knows he is worth more than any name or money could ever measure. Then she played Mara's edited version, showing exactly how the words had been cut up and rearranged like puzzle pieces to create vicious lies that never existed. The crowd gasped as one voice. Shock and anger rippled through them like a wave crashing on rocks. But there's more you must know, Aunt Nuru said, her voice growing stronger. Eli's beloved mother, before she married into wealth, once worked in this very market. She was poor, just like us. On her deathbed, she made her son promise one thing: to find and recognize true kindness among humble people, because that is where real gold lives. Eli removed his dark sunglasses slowly. His eyes were wide with shock and beginning to shine with tears. Everything suddenly made perfect sense. His mother's dying wish, his year of hiding, and Lena, sweet, kind Lena who had passed his mother's test without even knowing. Bring her to me, Eli commanded, his voice shaking. Bring Lena to me right now, please. 3 days later, the rebuilt market reopened with a grand celebration. New stalls gleamed in the bright sunlight. Fresh paint covered old, worn wood. Electric lights hung between buildings like strings of stars. It was beautiful, reborn, a magnificent phoenix rising from old ashes. At the very center stood Lena's restored fruit stall, rebuilt bigger and better than ever before. But Lena was not there to see it. She sat beside her mother's hospital bed, holding the old woman's hand, believing she had no right to return to the place that had shamed her. Then the hospital room door opened. Eli stood there, no longer hiding behind any disguise. Just a man with hope and fear fighting a war in his eyes. I was wrong to believe lies, he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. I was wrong to let my fear and pain blind me to the truth. Lena stood slowly, tears already streaming down her face. And I was wrong to judge you for hiding when the world had given you every reason to protect yourself. Eli crossed the room and knelt before her. Not as a prince kneeling before a peasant, but as one equal soul kneeling before another equal soul. I never loved my wealth or my name, he said. I only wanted to find one person who could see past all of that. You did, Lena. You saw me when I was invisible to the world. Lena knelt down too, taking his hands in hers. If only I had known the truth sooner, she whispered. But maybe deep in my heart I knew all along. Maybe that is why losing you hurt so terribly much. Outside the hospital, Aunt Nuru smiled her ancient, knowing smile. She walked away slowly, her story complete and her lesson taught. Behind her, she could hear Lena's mother waking up, her dangerous fever finally broken, healed by medicine and by the return of hope and love. The old storyteller whispered to the wind, "Listen well, children of the earth. Gold tested by poverty shines brighter than gold worn by pride. Judge not by appearance, but by the heart that beats beneath. Remember this wisdom and be changed by it." From that day forward, Eli and Lena walked side by side through rain and sunshine, through the old market rebuilt new, their love tested by fire and proven true. Mara disappeared into the shadows she had once wielded as weapons, her name spoken only as a warning. And the market thrived under their care, a place where kindness was valued more than gold, where the poor were treated as equals, and where every person's worth was measured not by what they owned, but by the size and goodness of their heart. The end. Moral of the story: true worth is never revealed by wealth, power, or beautiful appearances, but by who remains kind and compassionate when the cruel world turns against them. Judge people not by the clothes they wear or the money they carry, but by the heart that beats beneath their skin. For in the end, we are all just beggars seeking kindness in the rain, hoping someone will see our true value when we have nothing left to offer but ourselves.